Bobby, what's going on, my man? How are you?
Matt, happy Monday to you. Glad to be here, back on the pod.
Back on the pod, so happy to be here. There's so much stuff going on. If you don't know what you're listening to, and I don't know why you'd select it, but this is the Ombudsman Report, the OR podcast. We do this every week, usually on a Monday. We try our best. We talk about news, politics, culture. My name is Matt Spurrier. Join with me, as always, co-host, the wonderful Bobby Juliana.
How are you today? Doing well.
Doing fantastic. Had a great weekend. We saw a Triple Crown winner in Justify.
That was pretty crazy.
Some good weather. Had a buddy
Justify.
come up. Yeah.
Secretariat, obviously, people say is the greatest racehorse of all time. If you took his time and you compared it to Justify, he would have beat him by 24 lengths.
Secretariat?
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy, right?
That's some crazy horse race knowledge for all you folks at home.
There you go, a little tidbit.
We got a bunch of stuff to talk about. Like, I sometimes I feel like we come on here and we're like, freak out, what are we going to talk about? And then there are some weeks where we're like, what are we going to talk about? There's so much stuff going on, and we've sort of had to pick and choose, but I think we picked some pretty good stuff. Going to talk about Kim K, going to talk about some Tony Award speeches. We're going to talk
some
about
pretty good stuff. We're going to talk about Kim Kardashian today.
Exactly, yeah. We're going to talk about the Singapore Summit that's happening tomorrow. We're going to talk about I said North Korea. We're talking about G7. And maybe a little bit later, I'll start to complain and harp more on Yemen and the cholera outbreak there. First, Kim Kardashian, a celebrity, did something good in politics, right? Am I wrong for saying that?
No, you got to play it like it lies.
I am the first to admit that I complain when celebrities get involved in politics. I hate that stuff. I hated when Obama did it, and I'm not going to change just because Trump does it. But, you got to...
They're both celebrities.
They're both celebrities in their own way.
Two in a row now.
True.
Yeah.
But, got to give it up to Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian saved someone's life. So, good on her. Good for Kim K. I'm surprised to see if they put it in the next season of Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
Right.
What that would be like behind the scenes.
I'm not surprised. I don't watch that show.
My roommate watched that show. I told you she was watching an episode from like 10 years ago yesterday, and I was very confused.
Yeah.
How far we've come as a culture. But anyway, so if you haven't heard, you definitely saw the picture of Donald Trump and Kim Kardashian in the Oval Office, and I found it funny. A couple people on Twitter pointed out, imagine being in a coma for 3 years. You wake up and someone says, what's new? And they just show you that picture. They'll be very confused by like, what the hell has happened in the past 3 years here? But
right.
The story goes, Kim Kardashian, the person that she was sort of vying on behalf of, was trying to get the sentence commuted or pardoned. I believe they commuted it. They commuted it, right?
Commuted it.
And that's an important distinction. Pardon is like it expunged off your record. Commuted is sort of like you've served your time already, but like lessen the sentence. And this is for a woman, Alice Marie Johnson, grandmother at this point now, has been in a cage for a nonviolent drug offense for over 20 years now, right?
Yeah, over 20 years. It was her first charge. It was drug distribution. To give a full picture, it was mass, like very large scale drugs distribution, cocaine.
People want their drugs, dude.
Someone's got to do drugs.
Hey, when you keep things illegal, you're going to push it underground, and then people like Alice Marie Johnson are going to capitalize on all the money not being made. I mean, that's just supply and demand economics, man. I mean, I'm not that economically illiterate.
Yeah. That crazy libertarian argument, the libertarians have a chance every 4 years, and then they get bogged down in the weeds. Like we should legalize heroin for babies. Like they get really off topic, but the legalizing drugs thing.
Gary Johnson.
The legalizing drugs thing, it makes a lot of sense. At least can we just decriminalize, weed?
Yeah,
that's a start.
Well, I found it interesting with this sentence being commuted because...
And not so everyone can get high, by the way. It's not like everyone should just go out and smoke weed. It's just because I should be free to do whatever I want. I can already get myself drunk. Why can't I get myself high? It's a technicality that's lasted for a very long time.
Yeah, and there's a case to be made that alcohol is way worse for you than marijuana is in terms of potential harm to other human beings. the only harm you really do with marijuana is, your body fat percentage, and you hurt your wallet by ordering Domino's pizza at 2:30 in the morning, like me. But enough about my bad eating habits. The funny thing someone pointed out to me on this was Alice Marie Johnson basically won the lottery, right?
Pretty much.
A celebrity took up her case, and, not just a celebrity, the most popular celebrity in our culture, Kim Kardashian, arguably, and brought this to the president, had a one-on-one conversation, and got it. Now, clearly, there are more Alice Marie Johnsons in the system, right? Alice Marie Johnson is not the only person that's in a cage for drug distribution. And so when I see this, it's just glaring kind of hypocrisy. I mean, I know we talk about hypocrisy every single week, but it's like these laws are on the books. You're kind of admitting that they're shitty laws. So why not just change the laws?
Well, that would require Congress to do something. And, to your point, why not change the laws? Cory Booker, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, all in an attempt to make a name for themselves and get their name out there before 2020, have been rumbling and beginning to think about pushing a law to decriminalize marijuana, like a sweeping legislation. I think it would also apply like retroactively to people in jail for marijuana.
Good.
Right. But Trump, either because he doesn't care, which I could see, or because he wants to totally own Jeff Sessions, who's really got a hard on for weed, was thinking about
Keebler off, man.
He made a couple of comments like, I might just let him pass it, and like, I'll sign that. Go ahead, Corey. I'll sign the pot bill, just to passing pot, making it legal just to own Jeff Sessions. But,
hey, man, anything to own those guys. That's funny.
He just hates his own attorney general. But hey, that's
anything towards liberty. Anything towards liberty, I'll take.
Yeah,
if Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren want to join this team of getting these people out of jail, then let's lock arms and get something passed. I'm totally down for it.
No, that would work for me. It's just I'm absolutely shocked. Something that I kind of agree with is coming from the left, but if it comes, it comes. It's like Trump.
Yeah.
I like when he does good things.
Well, the left used to be more like hippy dippy, what's the government got to do in my business kind of deal, and now it's sort of like roles are reversed. Yeah, it's get involved in my business. Why aren't you making my food? Why aren't you taking care of my health care? Why aren't
forcing someone to make a cake?
Why aren't you forcing someone to make a cake, which we'll also talk about later? So good on Trump, good on Kim Kardashian. Michael Malice, of course, had a great tweet, as he always does.
He's very funny, very snarky.
He's got, that type of, like, just some people, they have a knack for, it's wit. It's just being able to, like, see the little thing inside the situation that is just like, wow, that is such a great point. And what he was talking about is all these people, because we talked on here that there are certain people that just will hate whatever Trump does, right? Not everyone on the left. I mean, I saw some people giving him props for doing this.
Yeah, a quick treat. And then
to be fair,
back at it.
But there's a certain group that always is not going to like him, and so it's funny to see him do like a demonstrably good thing, and people still like foaming at the mouth, like pissed. And Michael Malice said, "Unless you have saved a human life, Kim Kardashian and Donald Trump are arguably like demonstrably better person than you." And it just gets right under their skin, and you're like, they're so pissed about that.
Well, it was easy for people to quickly brush over this and then go to something bad because, at the same time that he did this, he started throwing out, and people were like, oh, he's preparing for pardons for Russia, but he was floating ideas of pardons. He's like, maybe Muhammad Ali will get one.
He just learned this idea of pardon.
I think he probably just figured out that he could actually pardon people, and he's like, oh, well, this is cool. Who can I pardon? He already pardoned Jack Johnson, who was like one of the greatest boxers of all time. He's dead. Muhammad Ali, he's like, oh, maybe we'll pardon Muhammad Ali. What was his name? Rod Blagojevich, the former from Chicago. He was trying to sell Obama's seat after he got elected president, and he got caught by the FBI. Rod Blagojevich.
Interesting.
You don't remember that name?
I don't remember that name.
Oh my God, it was so funny watching Republicans do backflips. Like, oh no, this person 6 years ago that I absolutely hated and wanted thrown in a cage, I want him out now because Trump says so.
Yeah, but, all of a sudden Hannity's his biggest
Martha
fan.
Stewart. He was like, I can pardon Martha Stewart. Like, this is real.
Let's do it. I thought it funny. The Ali family released a statement like, while it was a very nice gesture, like
Good.
Muhammad Ali was pardoned like 10 years ago or whatever it was, or he had his record expunged. Yeah, it's so funny. I think they probably just ran a pardon clip on Fox and Friends. It's like, holy shit, I can pardon people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting enough. Nancy Pelosi. Is that what we want to talk about next? You are the one that brought. Donald Trump asking the NFL players for lists of people he wants pardoned. That's pretty funny. That's trolling right there. I mean, come on, that's got to be.
See, we see it as trolling, but like, I think Trump's probably, it's a troll. It's totally a troll after the stunt he pulled with the Eagles. You know, he's like, the Eagles aren't invited. But by the way, NFL players, if you got anyone I need to pardon, send me a list.
Which the answer should be, okay, let's start getting lists of names of people that are nonviolent drug offenders and get them pardoned. Right, but nothing to give them a win. If they were smart, they would actually give him like a list, be like, yo, here's like 1,000 names.
They would actually cooperate.
Yeah.
Just like if the Eagles were smart, they could go. Like I don't get the it's the resistance. We're not going to the White House. Like, if you personally don't want to go, don't go. But I know there's people that are on the team that want to go. I know, like, maybe people that don't hate Trump would still want to go to, or do hate Trump would still want to go to the White House. And maybe when you're there, you'd have a chance to meet with him one-on-one and, like, maybe change his mind. He seems to be pretty influenceable.
Yeah, I mean, you lock him in a room with anyone, you can change his mind within
Trump,
20 minutes.
He's so petty. That's really the root cause of it. Is just he's a child.
He is.
He handles everything out of spite. So when the Eagles say the Eagles say we don't want to go to the White House, and so instead he says, all right, well, you're not coming, and I'm going to hold like a big rally for America instead in that same time slot. Instead of being that petty and like intentionally divisive, he should have said. Like, reached out and been like, no, I really want you to come. Brought only the ones that come and, like, showed them around the whole White House, gave him a sweet tour, made it fun. And then we were going back and be like, oh, he's not that bad.
Pictures in the Oval Office.
Maybe get some good, some good press coverage out of it. But no, he drove that wedge in there and his baseball.
And then he didn't even know the anthem. Then they zoom in on him trying to sing the national anthem and he doesn't even know the words.
I don't buy that.
You don't
really
buy
think
that?
He doesn't know the national anthem?
I don't think that Donald Trump
he's heard
knows
it
the
a million
anthem.
times already since he's been elected. He probably didn't before he got elected. Maybe not.
I don't think he pays attention that much. Like, I don't think he even thinks of it. I don't think he thinks of it at all.
Fair enough. But hold on, here's another point. How many people do you think that are on social media at any point have said fuck Trump, also don't know the national anthem?
The difference here is that he's the president and he's making fun of people. He's the president and he's making a divisive cultural battle out of not
100%.
standing for the national anthem. So if you're gonna make that, if the national anthem is gonna be the shield that you raise, the hill that you're dying on is the national fucking anthem.
Yeah,
you better know the words. That's all I'm saying. Like, you better know the words. Just do your homework, dude. I mean, how hard is this? You've been hearing it. I mean, all throughout your entire life. But it's to score political points. It scored political points in the culture war. That's what it is. It's just for the culture war.
100%.
It's not anything serious. He's not like a. I don't think Donald Trump's a true patriot that knows. Do you think Donald Trump knows who the founding fathers are?
I mean, put it this way: if I had to read his response, like a transcript of him answering that question.
Oh my God! It was amazing. It was amazing. The founding fathers. They were the greatest fathers of all time.
Washington. And he was riding around like it would be a nightmare. But
Washington, Lincoln, and now me. And now me.
Dude, he just that's what he is. He's a culture warrior, and we're getting some policy as a byproduct. As much as you hate Mitch McConnell, like he's the one doing all the policy.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's conserving.
Mike Pence and Mitch McConnell. I mean, they don't conserve anything, but they're the ones doing all the policy. Trump just he says, okay, what are you doing?
He's
Yeah,
the
all right,
icon.
good enough.
Yeah.
It's like the judges. Trump just signed off. He's like, okay, I'll basically let the Federalist Society pick all the judges, and in return, you guys just praise me, and I'm gonna go fight about the national anthem.
Which, if you're conservative, it's not the greatest.
It's honestly, it's what I hope for. I hope to just turn the policy over to other people. It's just a placeholder and to get rid of Hillary. I mean, that was my intention with the vote, but so I mean. You're getting what you voted for, which is still better than Hillary. 2 years later, how about that still matters?
For some reason it's still. Well, it only matters because she's around, right? Like people always say, like, it's not about Hillary. Why are you talking about Hillary? And you're right, it's not about Hillary. It's not about Hillary at all. But if it's not about Hillary, then why doesn't she just go retire and wither away in Westchester, New York? Why is she still going on book tours and calling, why is she in India saying that she lost the election because a bunch of women, white women, listened to their husbands? Right? Do you remember that? That was like 2 months ago. I know the news cycle moves fast. I mean, but come on. She's still around. And what I think now, and what I'm really I'm going to put my eggs in this basket, and I'm not taking a risk at all. It's going to be Joe Biden running against Donald Trump in 2020. I really think that they're all about him. I think the Bernie people will be very upset because I'm sure Bernie Sanders is like 80 years old, man. I mean, I don't know how the guy has the energy.
He's what, 76?
I don't know how he has the energy to keep going up there and talking about the corporations. And
dude, have you seen him recently? He's obsessed with Disney. He's like, Mickey Mouse. This is not what Mickey Mouse would have wanted. And then he puts some bullshit stat that like 2/3 of Disneyland employees go hungry. And I'm like, 2/3? I don't know if I buy that number. And what do you define as hungry?
Well, I think what I thought was most Disneyland workers were like seasonal workers in the summer, like college kids, right?
A lot are.
Like a lot of them.
Or it comes back to that same argument. It's like they can't feed a family of 4 on $12 an hour. It's like, well, sorry, you're living off minimum wage with a family. Like the minimum wage, it's not for family living. And we need a livable wage. Well, you can't pay a livable wage for minimum wage work. You'll just get automation. Fight for 15. It's just like McDonald's is like, okay, how do you like a kiosk?
Yeah, they were going to do that anyway. Probably.
It's probably going to happen anyway. But it's going to speed it up if you're trying to fight for more pay for a job that doesn't have the same output. It's simple economics.
Right. It limits the amount of people they can hire, right?
Yeah.
In a way. For like Disney's example, like Disney can't. I'm sure.
Well, he's like, the CEO's making $400 million a year.
This is when I'm learning. I'm doing a lot of like setting up an organization, and a lot of people just think like Bernie Sanders. Does he think that like, is it Bob Iger, head of Disney, right? Yeah. Head of ABC. Does he think Bob Iger just like sits around and collects checks every day? Like, does he not think the dude worked for 40 years?
Probably 70 hours a day.
Listen, I'm all for, like, hey, I get it too. Maybe a CEO shouldn't be making $400 million, but
I don't want anyone putting
maybe it's not fair. But what's fair? Like,
there's no such thing as fair.
Tiger Woods makes $150 million from playing fucking golf. Yeah. Is that fair? No, it's not fair. But you can't put limits on these things. You can't have the state come in and put caps and bottoms on people's wages because it eventually hurts our economy. Sorry, that did not sound like...
No caps, Matt. No caps. Just taxation out the ass. Like, he would just...
Yeah. Well, I told you I was talking to this progressive person. We talked for 45 minutes, and he was a nice kid. But he kept going back to Denmark and telling me how we need to be like Denmark. We need Denmark. They have livable wage. They have Denmark. I said, Denmark has a 4% corporate tax rate. Denmark is not socialist. Okay. Denmark is a relatively small population, homogenous, right?
I love when they give these examples of like sort of collectivist societies, and they have
like Rhode Island,
25 million people.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that might work well. They tax them all at 60%, but they pay for all their health care. So what do you want? You want a 60% tax rate? Like,
yeah,
no.
they do. That's the thing is,
that's the point.
This kid, he's not here to defend himself, so obviously, so I'll just drop him. But he was talking about taxes and raising taxes and stuff like that. I was like, you know, it's not right to just take someone's money because you feel that you know what's best for everyone. Like, you know what I mean?
No,
I don't know.
100%. I mean, and that's just from a moral standpoint. But if you really start digging into numbers, it's like what the top 1% pays 75% of the income tax. Like you can't. Yeah, Bob Iger has $400 million, but there's not that many Bob Igers. You can't dig into the 1% any more than we already are.
Yeah.
I mean,
Which
sure
sounds
you can.
weird.
You probably
It
can.
sounds
You
weird.
You can keep gouging. You can keep gouging, but it's going to have more negative ramifications than it is positive, than the positive you're going to gain from taking the money.
Right. Sure. Capitalism and free markets solve these things, man. I don't know why. I was actually listening to...
We don't need any more money. Maybe we're just spending too much money, but that's not even a thought that can cross his mind. Because don't you know, Matt, we need Medicare for all, but that's going to go bankrupt in 2026.
Well, that's sorry, I keep bringing this random straw. It almost sounds like a straw man up, but he was, he said we need Medicare and we need Social Security and all these things, and I said, dude, they're insolvent in like 10 years.
Like
where are we going to pay for this? And he's like, oh, we can raise taxes. These people have like offshore bank accounts. I was like, dude, you can raid all the offshore bank accounts you want.
Switzerland.
Yeah, you can you can take all the offshore bank accounts you want. It's not going to be able to pay for healthcare for 350 million people. It's just unrealistic. Sorry.
So speaking of economic illiteracy, I think you brought up Nancy Pelosi a minute ago.
I did.
Nancy Pelosi. God, I hope she never retires. I hope she never retires.
She's the gift that keeps on giving.
She is. She's the gift that keeps on giving. And Democrats, it's so funny, dude. Every midterm election, they flirt with like, oh, maybe it's time Nancy goes. And somehow, dude, she just keeps those claws in power. And it's the best. It's the best. It's endless content for me. And, all she does is shoot her own party in the foot on a semi-daily basis.
Bro.
And this whole blue wave, it's June 11th. There is no blue wave. I'm calling it right now.
Okay. I mean, like, she is the rich Californian Democrat with a bunch of rich donors that just keep her in place.
She's been in place forever. She's sucked off roughly, they say, $30 million for her own personal net worth. When she makes like $100,000 a year. Yeah, dude, she's worth like $30 million.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
How's that possible? Make $100,000 a year. How's that possible?
Revolving door, man. They give little favors. And they're in and out of office, and they have speak. Don't you see? Like, who wouldn't want to pay $500,000 to see Hillary Clinton give a speech?
But here are some facts. Trump likes to say the economy's doing great. The economy is doing pretty good. Okay, unemployment's at 3.8%. Unemployment by demographic is at the lowest, I think ever for Hispanics and blacks. It's the lowest potentially ever for women. It's like 3.4% for women, 3.8 general. People tout the stock market. That's not really related to Trump, but that's doing phenomenal as well. Consumer confidence, like many of the indexes are up. Okay, however you want to judge it, the economy is doing well. And then you get comments from Nancy Pelosi and Bill Maher and people like that poo-pooing it, and to sure, it'll score points with your like hardcore base, the resistance people, like yeah, Nancy Pelosi made a point. The economy's really not doing that well. Like, okay, but to the average person, to the people that aren't super connected, they see Nancy Pelosi saying like, oh, like, do you have the clip?
I have the clip. Let's actually go back to our technology that we've started using here for the second episode in a row. Let's play the clip. Nancy Pelosi talking about unemployment. What the heck? There we go. Sorry.
So in terms of the stability of America's working families, unless we have an increase, a very significant increase in wages and bigger paychecks, we were going to increase the frustration of America's families because they'll be saying, hip, hip, hooray, unemployment is down. What does that mean to me in my life? I need a...
So, hip, hip, hooray, unemployment's down. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but wages don't just skyrocket over, like, a month period, right? Wages are something that, like, is a very slow climb. Like, we've worked a long time in Western civilization to get to, the
Well, there's two
where
ways
the
to think
wages
about
are,
it.
right?
I mean, there's
Maybe I'm wrong.
wages.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Like there's wages on average, like general take-home pay, but then there's an individual's wages. So from an individual perspective, how am I going to get my wage to go up? Well, that's going to take time, experience, me diversifying
Skills.
myself, learning skills. And how do you do that? Well, to the person flipping burgers at McDonald's that's probably going to get replaced by a kiosk, you hope maybe you get moved from burgers to manager, and then you move from manager of the McDonald's to manager of a small office, and you learn skills over time. 10, 15 years go by, and you're not making $12 an hour anymore. It's a process. That clip from Nancy Pelosi, like, oh, hip, hip, hooray, unemployment's down. We need higher wages. Not disagreeing. Sure, we need higher wages. But then, okay, so the logical next step is, well, Nancy, what are you going to do to get us higher wages? She continues on rambling there. She really has no plan. She
Write a
just
law.
thinks I'll write a law to make wages higher. Or then she goes on rambling about, prescription drugs, and that's a whole separate issue. I don't know how she ties that to wages, but the thing is, she poo-poos unemployment, which what's more important, a high wage or having a job at all? So that's
Right.
one. But then
That's
two,
true.
it's just okay. So you're poo-pooing that unemployment's down because wages aren't high enough. But what's your plan? And when you think about the Democrats' plan for anything with economics, like, okay, how do you get wages to rise? Well, one way that you get wages to rise is obviously if you had less people. It's supply and demand. If you had less people to fill a job, you're going to have to pay them more to get them in that job. Okay, well, aren't the Democrats the party that wants to bring in unfiltered immigration? What happens to anybody making unemployment when there's illegal immigration on the cheap available? Well, they might either be unemployed or that's how wages fall. That's a clear example, and that's something she's in favor of. So she talks about wages need to go up, but I mean, a lot of her policies would be anti-wage growth, and she has no specific plan herself. She just decides to take a shot at a metric that's indicative of American families doing well. So, this blue wave, she's just shooting herself in her foot, man. She makes comments like this all the time. The Democrat Party, they don't care about the average person. You said it 10 minutes ago. They used to be the blue collar. Well, they used to be the hippy dippy, and they used to be like for the blue collar. They're not anymore. They don't care. They're for, Jay-Z and Beyonce in Hollywood.
They're for
Katy Perry
Western
coming
Europe
out, Hillary
socialism, man. That's what they're for. They're for Western Europe democratic socialism. Clearly, evidently. I also would say is another way that wages steadily raise is when businesses do better and businesses have the opportunity to grow. They can hire more people, right? Create more positions that require growth and... Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. But yeah, sorry, I know that was
that's a
that was
great
stupid,
point.
but that is how
when
wages grow.
businesses-
That's because when businesses
Exactly.
flourish, they can give you raises, right? You can promote yourself, move forward in your career, right? But
Well, a hardcore leftist would say, no, Matt, they're greedy corporations are going to pickpocket that money. But it's like, well, what just happened? We had tax reform pass, and what happened? They gave out bonuses. They gave out raises. Like, no. Employees are the number one expense for a business and also the number one asset. Like, that's what I do. If you look at a balance sheet, the number one expense, salaries and wages. It costs a lot of money, especially in our culture where you give them 401k plan, friggin' healthcare. Like the cost of if you're making $10, the cost to that company is probably like 18 in terms of all the other things that come wrapped into your just to your salary. So yeah, businesses have to do well in order for people to make more money. Tax reform is a big part of that, and the Democrats are just, I mean, honestly, they're anti-business. So
because what's the step for Nancy Pelosi? They want to put forward a plan to get those taxes back, correct?
Yeah, she says if the Democrats get elected, they'll repeal the tax reform bill. So if you want $60 in your paycheck and your corporation not to do that expansion and hire 500 people in your city, vote for the Democrats. It just doesn't make sense. And I don't know how people like the common man, like the average dude going to work every day. You may hate Trump and his rhetoric, but just think logically. Like vote with your wallet. That's why I think it's not going to pan out in another 5-6 months. Like November, they're not going to be able to ride a hate wave in November, if the economy is roaring, if we're not in a war, it's generally calm. Like, oh, Canada's mad at us. No one's going to the polls because Canada's mad at us.
Very true,
dude.
I don't know.
Trudeau's in a
Hey,
tricky
man.
spot.
I don't know. Trudeau has a lot of girls that are pretty big fans. I don't know if they're old enough to vote, but maybe in 2 years. Speaking of, I think that's a great point you just made. People vote with their wallets, and people, especially if consumer confidence and the economy is going well, they're less likely to throw the guy out of office. Someone who's actually wishing for the economy to go down. Someone that I actually enjoy the show.
Oh, I saw this.
Bill Maher. So I just want to play this clip. This is from Bill Maher, his most recent episode, talking about how they need a recession to get rid of Trump.
This economy is going pretty well. We have to, what? Why is that funny?
It is going well for now.
For now, right. That's my, thank you. That's my question. Is like, I feel like the bottom has to fall out at some point. And by the way, I'm hoping for it because I think one way you get rid of Trump is a crashing economy. Yeah. So please bring on the recession. Yeah. Sorry if that hurts people, but it's either root for a recession or you lose your democracy. This economy.
So a couple things wrong with that.
Ouch.
One, let's root for a recession because I don't like the guy in office and he says mean things, right? And I'll get to the democracy part the less, but, essentially what it comes down to is this guy says bad stuff for a lot of people. Maybe not so much Bill Maher, but rooting for a recession when, you and I were young, but you remember what a recession looks like, okay?
What a bad recession looks like. Recession.
What a great recession when people are thrown out of their homes, living on the streets. It was scary for a while there in 2008, 2009. I remember a bunch of people, our friends, you didn't know if your parents were going to lose their jobs. And then what?
I mean, a lot of them did.
A lot of them did. One of our friends, a mutual friend of ours, his dad, they lost their jobs, right? The twins. We won't mention one on the podcast, but he lost his job during the recession. And for Bill Maher to just say, we need a recession. What? Oops. Sitting in his ivory tower as a millionaire liberal talk show host, and his audience, recession, yeah. Woo! People recession. Losing their jobs, woo! Yeah.
Dude, it's pathological. Think about how detached from reality that guy is.
That's so. I mean, he's the one that.
Listen, common people in Ohio. Listen, anyone who owns their own small business, or anyone who works at a factory, or anyone who does anything, anyone who works in an office, sits in a cubicle 40 hours a week and hates their life, but makes money and pays for their family. Guess what? You might have to lose their job because Trump's kind of a dick and he's threatening our democracy. 2 years in, I don't see why that's happened yet any more than Obama, broke constitutional norms, if we're going to go down that route. But don't worry, he's a threat to democracy. So we have to plummet the economy, put suffering on tons of people, not just in the United States because of our economy tanks, the worldwide suffering. They talk about, climate change deaths. It kills 10,000 people or 100,000 people a year because of abnormal storms. What is a Great Recession? How many does that kill? Try and count that number. Probably a lot. Probably a lot more than tornadoes and hurricanes per year.
Yeah, okay? I'm not sure. So, but, even so, again, you're scared about China and Russia, rising as global powers. Let's just tank our economy, because that won't help China or Russia at all, I'm sure. I'm sure they'd be so sad to see the United States go through an economic downturn. I mean, what are you talking about? Trump isn't a threat to our democracy, okay? He's just a blowhard reality TV star. If he gets voted out, he gets voted out. This idea that Trump is just going to, he's secretly a Russian agent, and then in 2020, if he loses the election, he's going to rewrite the Constitution to be a dictator. That's not going to happen. That's not a reality. I don't know where this is coming from. You know what I mean?
It's just like they say, like, oh no, we still love this country, we just don't like the man. And it's like, but no, I don't believe you. Like, right. I want to call bullshit on that. You don't. Like, all right, in 2008, when Obama got elected, Rush Limbaugh got a ton of shit for saying, I hope he fails. And he went on to clarify, he said, I hope his policies fails. I hope he can't get things passed. I don't hope the country fails. Wishing a recession to try and get someone out of office, and he's right, like, if the economy holds, Trump's going to win. I'm saying that right now. If the economy doesn't hold, he's not. It's the economy, stupid. It comes down to that. But wishing a recession and all that would bring because you don't like Trump, that's un-American.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
As much as I'm going to throw that term around, yeah, it is. Like
that is it's just it's a very smug, like when people think of high-minded liberal,
it's something Hillary
think
would
of
say
that
and
type
then
of
wonder
shit.
why people get mad.
Right. You're like, what do you mean? Because, Bill Maher, if there's a recession, he'll be fine. No skin off his bones. He'll still have an episode every Friday at 9 or whatever.
Yeah, and when they reschedule the shows, he'll get a bigger paycheck. But everyone else...
Exactly.
And the people watching Bill Maher, the people clapping along, they probably won't be affected either.
No,
I don't know the demographics on that show.
To talk about more people clapping along for just because they're mad at Trump and they're... actually, I want to play this because this is there's a real powerful moment here in the culture, and there's not that there's people talk about Rosa Parks not giving up her seat, and people talk about Martin Luther King marching, and is a March on Selma, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about these American heroes speaking truth to power. And really putting their neck out there to speak truth to power. So I want to play a clip of an American really taking a big risk and speaking truth to power.
I think I know where this is going.
And this is of course Robert De Niro at the Tonys.
I'm going to say one thing. Fuck Trump.
Wow. Just absolutely so brave. Did you hear all the jeering and the boos and the tomatoes being thrown at him as he came out there? Fuck Trump. Wow, Robert De Niro, Mr. Fokker, a true American hero, speaking truth to power. And I just want to play that because I think it's so funny that even now, it's like Robert De Niro thinks about... Like, Trump honestly needs to pay him rent for how much space he takes up in Robert De Niro's head. What?
Dude, it's been 2 years.
Loser.
It's been 2 years.
What? Robert De Niro is now a loser. He is a loser.
I always liked him too. He makes great movies.
I always liked him too. Dude, Trump derangement syndrome. These people are crazy. It's either they're crazy or they're doing it just so they can get the... Meryl's in the second row. Make sure you say fuck Trump. Like, you know what I mean? What kind of game is this? What are you doing here? What?
Yeah, I don't...
You're a movie star, bro.
You know what's funny is he says it. It's like these people think, especially these Hollywood celebrities at these shows, I think they think that by getting up there and bitching that they're actually doing something.
I think so too. I think
he says it and he puts his hands up as if he just won a game.
I know.
It's like fuck Trump. And then he goes like this, as if him saying those 2 words into the microphone removed him from office. He's like, "We did it!" His hands go up as if he changed the world, and then he just he made himself look small.
He didn't do anything, and anyone who was any Trump supporter sitting there, and it's like, you know what, Robert De Niro's right. I need to start campaigning for Hillary today.
Yeah,
because Robert De Niro. And plus, there's the thing. Anyone who has their mind changed by Robert De Niro on politics, I don't think you should be voting anyway. Please don't vote.
Dude, every time
Stay
a celebrity
home.
gets up there and either curses out Trump or makes some kind of long-winded well, my mother's something of another, and has all these friggin' anecdotal stories about someone who changed their lives and sheds one tear that is fake because they're actors. Every time they do that, add 1,000 votes in Trump's category.
I know, because it is so annoying.
I wish they held the Tonys every Saturday. It's like Samantha Bee. It's like when they were going to try and kick her off the air. Why? She's funneling people into your side.
Isn't it so funny how she didn't even apologize? Did you see that?
No, she didn't apologize.
She came out and said...
She wrote that thing on Twitter, and then she gave a speech later that night, right? And she just basically was like, "I don't give a shit. I'm not apologizing."
Which, whatever. She doesn't need to apologize.
She doesn't
but
need to.
Don't fake it. And
But then the next show, she came out and did it again, right?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm talking about. That's what she did. She just came out and was like, "But I think we should all be focusing on Ivanka not talking about her father's immigration policies." It's like you're expecting Ivanka to go against her father Like regardless of politics, right? Ivanka was registered as a Democrat, but all of a sudden now, something that she didn't ask for, right? Now it's on Ivanka's shoulders, the immigration policy of the United States.
Right.
Right. It's all on Ivanka now. We didn't vote her in, and she has to go against her family, or else she's a feckless cunt. So, fuck Samantha Bee. Sorry, just fuck Samantha Bee. But anyway,
Dude,
Robert De Niro.
This is coming from the tolerance
Sorry,
side.
you're
I
right.
love that. I love that. It's just like the De Niro thing. I saw something on, of course, Twitter, and it was, I don't remember his name, far leftist, and he's saying we have to remember that when we're debating these policies and these issues, it's not just policies and issues. Like, the other side is actually evil.
Oliver Willis.
Right? Oliver Willis, thank you. Yes. And that wasn't verbatim, but that was the gist of it. He basically said, we're not just having a good faith discussion about policy differences. Like, the other side is evil.
And he was talking about with that too. That was a subtweet because Charles Krauthammer, in a letter to the editors in National Review, Charles Krauthammer is a conservative intellectual, part of the intelligentsia, announced that he has cancer, came back, and that he'll be dying in a few weeks. And so a lot of people, just normal people in America said, Charles Krauthammer, I enjoyed meeting him. He was actually a nice guy. He was always down for a conversation. He wasn't a bad guy, which is the respectful thing to do. But then Oliver Willis, of course, has to get that jab in there that, no, actually Charles Krauthammer's evil. Craziness, man.
They preach tolerance, but they just mean tolerance of anything that I believe. If you differ with them on the slightest of issues, you become evil, and there's no debate.
Right. It's like they're pro-tolerance and against shaming, but they're actually the most intolerant and shame the most.
I saw
right.
What's that guy's name? He's like kind of a bigger dude. He has like a real big beard, and he basically just interviews people on the street, and then he posts the videos. I don't remember his name. Anyway, he was in San Francisco for the Gay Pride thing. There was a big Gay Pride rally. Yeah. And he's walking. Huh?
Happy Pride weekend to all the gay listeners.
Great.
Happy Pride.
Do your thing, baby. So he's in California, and he he's walking up to people, and he's like, what are your thoughts on this? And they're like, it's inclusion, it's great, just accepting of others. Like, yeah, great, I accept you. Go ahead, man, do whatever you want. I don't really care. And then like the next question, he goes, so what would you say if President Trump was here right now? And they all just go, honestly, fuck Trump. Or like they immediately just like the least inclusive, like most hateful thing comes out of their mouth next. Like just complete dissonance of what they just said. And it's true. It's true. The same people, those Hollywood actors, the person before De Niro would get up there and just preach love and tolerance, and then they'd be back down in their seat, and he goes up there and says, fuck Trump, and you
yeah,
start
exactly.
clapping.
Exactly.
It's tolerance for everyone, but the people that disagree with you.
What's the quote? Don't become the monster you want to oppose or something. Is that something like that, right? They become the evil they're trying to fight.
Live long enough to see yourself become the villain, Uncle Ben.
No, that's not exactly what I was thinking of. But talking about Spider-Man, what a great segue about that, Bob. So another Tony speech we wanted to play, because this will sort of, I see we're up almost at 45 minutes here. We're going to talk about the Masterpiece Cakeshop, and I thought it'd be worthwhile starting it off with Spider-Man's take. Or the old Spider-Man, not the new Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield, though, I love this Spider-Man.
He was a terrible Spider-Man.
What? I love all the Spider-Mans. But here he is, Andrew Garfield.
This means a great deal. Thank you so much. At a moment in time where maybe the most important thing that we remember right now is the sanctity of the human spirit, it is the profound privilege of my life to play Prior Walter in Angels in America, because he represents the purest spirit of humanity, and especially that of the LGBTQ community. It is a spirit that says no to oppression. It is a spirit that says no to bigotry, no to shame, no to exclusion. It is a spirit that says we are all made perfectly and we all belong. So I dedicate this award to the countless LGBTQ people who have fought and died to protect that spirit, to protect that message, for the right to live and love as we are created to. Tony Kushner, thank you for being the angel of America that we all wish we could live in, that we all dream of living in one day. Marianne Elliott, I adore you. You are my queen and all of our queens. Thank you so much. This incredible company, you are all geniuses in your own right. I bow to you so deeply. You inspire me every day. To the crew at the Neil Simon Theater, you're all insane geniuses. To the Shadows, to Jordan Roth, Tim Levy, our producers, to other people that are escaping my mind. Miranda Cromwell, I adore you. To my own personal tribe, to my mum and dad, I share this with you. To Kate Bryden and Greta Seacat.
You get the point. He basically just goes on and on. But
I guess that's not where he said.
Can I just say
the cake
something?
part.
Yeah, I guess that's not where he said the cake part. He said the beginning. Kind of say, and nothing to do. I mean, it was a nice sentiment, I guess. Right. I guess
I don't
just trying to-
disagree with what he said.
Yeah,
I
just putting it
except
out
for
there.
one part. Probably the same one you're about to bring up. Go ahead.
No. What I was gonna say is, British people are really good at sounding really smart without really saying anything. Like, he sounded really smart there, but when you like break it down, he's like, "Thank you for keeping alive the spirit of the America which we all wish we could live in." What do you mean?
That was my point. Same here. Wish we could live in, that we all hope to live in one day. Are gays getting thrown off of roofs like they are in the Middle East?
They are not.
No one cares, dude. Like, okay, and then someone will tweet me an article of like one hate crime on a gay person. I'm like, I'm not saying that it's zero. I'm saying it's not societally rampant.
Right.
And then you get up there and try and tell me that like we still have this huge issue. I don't see it.
You know, it's funny. I was actually listening to Adam Carolla talk to Dennis Prager. I think it was today, maybe. And he made the point that there's like an important distinction where there are racists in America, but that's very different than America being a racist country.
Exactly.
Right? So, like, there are racists in America, but when you look at America on the whole, America isn't a racist place. Right?
The least racist country, I think you could very well argue.
And it kind of goes, I would say, a little bit towards the LGBT. You know, there are bigots. And let's not pretend there aren't. You know, there are clearly people that are really, you know, rudimentary in their thinking and don't think it through, and they
100%.
They're just losers. But America is not a bigoted country on whole. You know, it's so you know, it's frustrating on one level, our generation, because in our generation, you know, I'm sorry, I really just don't see it. I really haven't met people near our age that aren't accepting. And I'm willing to admit that I live in a bubble, I guess, right? But I don't know, man. I mean, like, I live in Hoboken. It's a liberal place. Like, there are dudes walking around in bikinis this weekend all around my neighborhood, and nothing happened to them. There's no guys. No one showed up to counter protest the Pride Parade around here. You know what I mean? It was generally just a good time where people just got to you know, hang out. And now this is sort of being rehashed because now all of a sudden there are masterpiece cake shops all around the corner. And everywhere you look, you know, maybe they're against gay people, this shop, you know. And so we want to talk a little bit about, you know, the masterpiece cake shop. It shouldn't even be a freedom of religion issue in my mind. It should just be a freedom of association.
Yeah.
You should be allowed to turn people down. You know, you're allowed to associate with whoever you want. That's part of, in the same way that gay people should be allowed to get married because of freedom of association. This baker should be allowed to not decorate a gay wedding cake because of freedom of association. And, you know, the Supreme Court didn't really help us out.
This isn't going to set a precedent. This is just settling one issue.
Do you know the background of the Masterpiece Cake Shop? Do you want to go through it, or do you want me to?
I mean, just
real quick.
I don't think much needs to really be said. It's like, I don't even think the Masterpiece Cake Shop baker, the actual dude who would not bake the cake, I don't think he's a bigot.
No, I don't think so either.
He very politely said, "Look, it's against my religious beliefs to decorate the cake." So, like, the two people walked in, said, "Hey, we want a wedding cake." Great, baked it for him. Vanilla, whatever, icing, ice the whole cake. Okay, we want to decorate it. We want it to say Joe and Steve. He goes, I'm sorry. I'll bake you the cake and I'll decorate it and everything but that, and then you can just buy it at that point and you can take it somewhere else to get decorated. I'm sorry. It's just personally, it's against one of my deeply held religious beliefs. Dude, the guy doesn't make Halloween cakes because he's that Catholic. Okay?
Wow.
He doesn't make cakes for Halloween. Like and
do
and if you really
do
dig
witches
into the story, if you dig into the
witches have
story,
the right to make him bake a witch cake?
It's
Do
just
they have the right?
it's just I mean, on this issue, I don't like. I thought the whole argument back when gay marriage was eventually legalized was just that they wanted to be obviously equal. Like, to me, just like in my own life, not even related to this issue, I want to be left alone. I don't want the government compelling me to do anything. And I think that they had that same, the gay rights movement had the same thing. They wanted to be made equal and then left alone. And now with instances like this, I feel like it's flipped, where instead of, wanting to be equal and left alone, they want to compel others to that. I don't know why we have to convert one single baker on a corner to you have to make this cake.
Yeah. I thought it was really funny and interesting when you shone the light that these two guys basically took a baker to the Supreme Court to give him money. They were basically suing for the right to pay this guy for a service, which in, free market, fuck that dude. Right? I'll say I believe in the guy's right to freedom associate, but he doesn't like gay people. He doesn't even like Halloween. He's a weird dude.
No, I don't think he has any problem with
whatever.
Gay people.
Or sorry, he doesn't believe in gay marriage. That sucks. I'm sorry. But we're talking about the state, because when you're taking someone to court for this, because it gets pretty dystopian really quickly. So you're telling me we need to put a gun to this guy's head and tell him to bake the goddamn cake, or else you're going to jail?
Yeah.
Is that what we need to do? That's the society we want to live in? I mean, I know it sucks, but you can go get another cake somewhere else, right? I mean, it really was. This wasn't like, this isn't them being refused like water service, or like the fire department's not showing up because they're gay, right? Like that's a different thing. This guy didn't want to put his artistic work to promote that message. And, it's a little bit of an extreme example, but it's sort of along the same wavelength, I would say, is should a Jewish person be forced to bake a Nazi cake? I think they have the right to say no. Should a Muslim baker have the right to refuse a Muhammad cake? I think they have the right to say no. And, is it different? Sure. Is it different enough that I think that we should be threatening jail time for this type of thing? No, because it's not violent, right? The guy's not being violent. He was literally doing nothing, and I'm pretty sure they sought out a baker.
Yeah, pretty much.
They basically sought out a baker that knew they weren't going to bake the cake, and then decide to get all these people involved and make it a big deal. I don't know. I just think they would have been much better served.
Look how strongly that guy believes it. That guy's going to be just as dude, I'm not baking the cake. And he goes on a 5-year ride, probably cost him tons of money. Well, he probably got it paid for it by some group to sponsor him, and but all the way to the Supreme Court. You know what I mean?
No, but
he's
they
had
were
his whole life disrupted.
Yeah.
Because he's I'm not going to. No, I don't. You shouldn't have to. We should not be in the business of having the government, force people to do things that one group or another decides they want done. I
agree. It should be left up to the free market, because
it's a very simple principle. If people are well, I guess a good, well, I don't know if it's good, but a good equation that I've seen come up a lot surrounding this issue is the civil rights. They're well, I mean, rampantly people weren't served, so they had to pass laws.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna stick my neck out here. I don't think gay people get to claim the same amount of suppression as black people under slavery and the civil rights were. Is that pretty far?
Not really.
I don't think
you'll catch a lot of shit for saying that, but you can't even begin to.
I'm sorry. I think
the persecution of one to the other.
I really think that African Americans have had it worse. In my experience, and Gay people have had it bad too, but it's just confusing because it's like, this is so fucking stupid, man. This is so stupid. Like, this is the civil rights fight? The baking a cake? This is civil rights now?
You know what's funny is back in the civil rights in the 60s, it was almost civil rights against like the government. Like, sure, there was obviously like half the population, especially in the South, like didn't like black people, but like the governments, like what was that governor's name that went to the school and was like, they're not getting in, and they had to send the National Guard?
Was that
like
Ruby
the
Rose?
actual government, dude. Cops used to just beat people in the streets. Like the government, the state was the one against you. And now they want the state involved to beat down the people that they disagree with.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I feel like it's historically ignorant. Why can't we all just leave each other alone?
Libertarians
Just leave each other alone.
Libertarians lost an opportunity, man. The LGBT people should be libertarians, bro.
Just leave everybody alone.
Leave everyone alone. Live your own life.
I'd like a cake. No, you have ugly glasses on. It's like, well, you just lost $30.
Oh,
like,
dude.
there's a cake shop a quarter mile away. Go to that one.
Fuck, man, you think so? Damn, now I gotta do this podcast without glasses. I won't be able to see a goddamn thing.
I can't see far, so I take them off.
But
Anyway.
yeah, the Masterpiece Cake Shop. I was just sort of sick and tired of hearing about it because I thought that now we're gonna
It's
have
one of
this.
those issues
We're gonna
that
have
gets
this.
politicized.
We're gonna have this conversation in a year from now, because the Supreme Court ruled narrowly, meaning that this won't set like a precedent, right? It's
Right.
just like it's
That's-
only
yeah, that's what I said
applicable.
earlier. It
It's
was
only
7-2.
applicable to this case.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm sure we'll talk about it again, and I can't wait to talk about the same thing. So enough culture stuff. Jeez, we took up 56 minutes of culture, man. We don't have like any time to do.
Dude, that's the news though. Like if there's an hour-long news program, 56 minutes of it is bullshit that really doesn't matter.
Like
really
our
doesn't matter.
Like our podcast.
You have to know about it because otherwise it's all people are talking about. It's all that's driving anything.
Yeah, you're right. But now, for some real diplomacy, tomorrow is
It's like now if you do the time and shit.
the North Korea summit. President Donald Trump is meeting with Kim Jong-un, and they're meeting in Singapore. If you didn't know, they're meeting at a wonderful hotel resort on an island of Singapore. Donald Trump will be staying at the Shangri-La Hotel. It's the greatest hotel. And they have a couple things on the docket. So who's going to be there? You got to know. So Donald Trump is bringing Mike Pompeo and John Bolton. Pompeo has been going to North Korea a couple times this year. He's been there twice already, sort of like laying the groundwork for what they're going to be talking about. John Bolton has sort of taken a back seat. If you remember, he made that Libya model comment, that the North Koreans were definitely not happy about. We've expounded on that a little bit on this podcast if you want to listen back. But he's taken a back seat, and you remember when they wrote letters back and forth, right? They said the meeting's not going to happen, and Donald Trump eventually canceled it and said, one day I hope we meet. Very romantic. And then he got the big envelope delivered, right, that he read but he didn't read. And it was a very warm letter. Oh, wouldn't you really like to see it? And the meeting was back on. And now we're here. It's finally here. Dennis Rodman is meeting them.
God, what is
Interesting.
happening?
I know. So I can't wait for the memes. I'm so excited for that picture of Dennis Rodman, Donald Trump, and Kim Jong-un. What Donald Trump says he wants is denuclearization. He's made it clear that denuclearization is the goal. And of course, Kim has not really defined what denuclearization is for them. But interestingly enough, I think on June 7th, the North Koreans actually destroyed a missile testing site that they've been using, sort of like showing their willingness to cut down on their nuclear program. So
there was reports it was already kind of like messed up, like out of action. So they sort of blew it up. Yeah, they said potentially they blew it up as a sign of goodwill when it was already kind of obsolete. Either
way, whatever. One less missile testing site in North Korea.
Sure.
But what I expect, is probably an end to the Korean War. They signed an armistice in 1953. They never officially signed a peace treaty, so I expect a photo op of them ending the Korean War tomorrow. And then they're going to kick it down the road for more meetings and more talks with lower level people. That's probably what's going to happen. We'll see. I'm sort of nervous. I don't know if I want Donald Trump locked in a room with just Kim Jong-un because...
Well, that's what they said. They're initially going to meet Kim and Trump with just translators.
No, that should not happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen first, and then they're going to bring in advisors like Pompeo and Bolton. That's definitely you got to get a little nervous for. He went into a closed-door meeting with Chuck Schumer, and he came out blowing the budget. But
yeah, exactly. Every time he's in it, if you get a room with Donald Trump, you can convince him to do anything.
Kim Kardashian got somebody pardoned, but
hey.
I mean,
he gave Russian foreign minister Israeli intelligence.
I think it's going to be a big show. I mean, Trump the other day was like, they're like, so have you been preparing? And he has. There's no doubt. Pompeo has been briefing him. They've been having meetings. I read a long article saying that the president was able to, basically recite in his own words what he had been learning in the briefs the last couple weeks, and all the staffers were like,
"Oh my god!"
No, they were like, well, he got the gist. They were pretty content with
the gist.
Right, but
interesting.
What are you gonna hope for? But he's gonna go into this meeting. I don't remember where I was gonna go with that.
He's going in for this meeting looking for denuclearization.
Yeah. Oh! He said publicly. Well, yes, that's what he stated. But he's also said, basically we're gonna wing it. I'm gonna feel Kim out. He's been preparing. That's what I was referring to. And he was like, I feel like I've been prepared for this my whole life. He's like, it's very much an attitude thing. He's like, I'm gonna know within a couple seconds of how this meeting's going, how it's going to go. He's like, I just have to size up Kim. So he's just gonna get in there, shake his hand really aggressively,
It's gonna be something to see.
He's gonna work the art of the deal, and basically what that means is we're gonna get a couple of things that matter but don't matter, like ending the North Korean war, and then hopefully they stop tweeting angrily at each other. And here's the thing: a lot of people are like, this is giving North Korea what they want. They just get to look good on the national stage.
I mean, on one hand, it is.
Yes. On the other hand, the alternative is nuking that whole country. So
right. I agree.
It's just you're kind of stuck with it.
A lot of people are criticizing him because.
Denuclearization is great, and obviously long term, that's probably less. That mitigates risk for the world, but there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people in prison camps and labor camps and suffering in that country that we seem to keep forgetting about.
Well, that's what I was just about to say. A lot of people were giving him crap and saying, oh, you're legitimizing him. He wants to be part of the world community. Let's keep our eye on the prize here. North Korea is a gulag slave state. Right. Okay, these people have guns to their heads and are forced to march around and cry at the dear leader. So let's just keep in mind when we're bashing Donald Trump on Korea, anything we can do to help those people get out of that fucking pitiful country.
Maybe if you open it up, the economic situation there rises and you have less people starving, less people in poverty. You don't know what could happen. But, yeah, the talks are going to be interesting. The memes are going to be plentiful.
Easy.
Yeah.
And we'll be sure to get a picture that isn't it fun to think about? Tomorrow there will be a picture that's taken that our kids will see in their history books. And that will be of Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. Very funny. Too rich. I think that's it for me. We'll obviously talk more next week, see how the North Korean summit goes, and then I'll get to Yemen next week, I promise.
Yeah,
because I'm sure it's not going to get better by then.
Because, again, in case you don't know, Medicare and Social Security going to be insolvent before 2030. So next time you get a paycheck, everyone, Friday, it's a Monday, but this Friday, check your paycheck. Actually look at the pay stub. Look at how much money you're getting ripped off every 2 weeks, and then just remember, when you're old, that's not going to be there for you. So
exactly, but they're taking money and just giving it to old Americans. But what are we gonna do?
Who paid in? And we're promised.
Who paid in? Exactly. You're right.
Government made you a promise. They're not going to keep it.
Not for us, anyway. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, tuning in to this episode of the OR Podcast, the Ombudsman Report. You can hit us up on Twitter. Hit me at Planet Politico. Matthew Sperry. You can hit up Bobby Juliana at Bobby J Politics. You can go to our website, theombudsmanreport.com. We are on iTunes, Google Play, and I really hope you're watching on YouTube so you can see our beautiful faces. All right, we'll talk to you guys next week, all right? Thanks for watching.